Warning. Listening to this show may result in increased levels of inspiration, motivation, and innovation. Side effects can include the immediate urge to take massive action to build a better business and life for yourself and others. You've been warned. Welcome to Influencers Radio with your host, Jack Mize.
And welcome back to another episode of Influencers Radio. You know, buying or selling a home is probably one of the more complicated and stressful processes that a lot of people face, especially in a hot market like we're in right now. And things move quickly, emotions are high, and decisions need to be made fast. Well, today my guest is Valencia Simmons. She is a realtor specializing in the Maryland, D.C., and Central Florida areas. And what she is particularly exceptional at is helping homeowners who need to sell their current home and purchase another home, whether it's for a growing family or someone wanting to downsize or even purchase a property, an investment property or a second home. As a homeowner, Valencia, she's an investment property owner. She's sold and purchased homes of her own, and she can empathize with the oftentimes emotional roller coaster ride faced during the home selling and purchasing journey. But to her clients, Valencia is not just their realtor. She is a true educator and advocate for their success. Valencia, welcome to Influencers Radio.
Thank you so much for having me, and I'm excited and happy to be here.
Well, I'll tell you, I'm happy that you're here because this is kind of an extraordinary time to watch in the home market when so much is going on in the world that has changed so much that it just seems like people are continuing, and even at a faster pace, buying and selling homes. And I'm sure that probably adds a lot of a lot of stress, like I talked about in your introduction. So let me start off by asking, the home selling market seems pretty healthy at the moment. So what do you see as the key for a seller, one, to get the best price for their home, and then conversely, for, what's the key for them as a buyer to getting the home that they want when they're making an offer?
Yeah, so in terms of a homeowner who's looking to sell, the key to obtaining the highest possible price is hiring a professional real estate expert who has access to the data, the homes that have recently sold in the area, and have that professional conduct a comparative market analysis of your home to ensure that when you do put it on the market, it's priced right. Because if the home is not priced properly, if it's overpriced especially, it'll just sit there. So it's very important to, have a professional provide that comparative market analysis so that your home is priced right. You also need to hire a professional to do a walkthrough. What I love to do when I meet with homeowners is provide a video walkthrough of their house where I point out areas that may require some updating or staging so that the house shows as best it possibly can when potential home buyers come through to take a look at it.
So that's like a private video that you do for the sellers, right? There, where you kind of walk through and almost do a little documentary of, well, here's what you may want to do, here's what you may want to do, so they can kind of let it soak in there. Is that right? Yeah,
exactly. I mean, because through my experience, initially, I would just do a walk and talk with the homeowner, but I find that it's more valuable to actually do a video, walk through the house with them. I'm speaking, I'm video recording, because the homeowner is not going to remember every single detail that I point out, or before I started doing the videos, they would actually try to write, take notes. I just find it more helpful and more efficient to be able to provide them with a video after the fact. That way they can look through it, they can hear again what I'm saying, and really take in the substance of the items that I've identified that may require some updating or staging or repair.
Yeah, well, that sounds like it could be really valuable because, like you said, a lot of things going through their head when they're doing that, to have that to refer back to.
Yeah, and of course, it's important I educate my sellers on the various documents that are required to, they're required to provide certain disclosures to the buyers. It's just essential to have an expert who's familiar with the real estate laws in the particular jurisdiction in which the house is located, so that there are no hiccups, down the line. You don't want to fail to disclose anything pertaining to the house, and then, later after the fact, the buyer comes back, with some type of claim of non-disclosure. So I just help educate my homeowners in that respect, so that there are no issues later down the line.
So, right now, especially like we're talking about in this hot market when things move pretty quickly, I think there's probably a lot of myths and misconceptions, and maybe not, because people hear all the time, oh, well, I put the house on the market and get, 5 offers, all above asking price. And, what's the realities of that? And for someone that's serious about, I really do need to sell this home and purchase another one. How much of that is, people that are just testing the market? Well, I'll sell it if I get enough, or how much of that is common right now versus just those stories that pop up?
Yeah, that's pretty accurate. We are in a full-blown seller's market and have been for at least the past 18 months. So sellers do have the upper hand. However, you still don't want to overprice the house, because the house will end up just sitting on the market. And, there's Zillow out here. And one of the most interesting conversations I typically have with homeowners relates to the value that they ascribe to their home based on Zillow. And the Zillow reports are not accurate. They're just based on a certain algorithm. They're not based on anyone actually having gone out and taking an up close and personal look at the property to assess its structural condition and its aesthetic appeal. So like I said, it's just very important to have a professional come out, look at the house, assess it. And I even oftentimes suggest that my sellers obtain a pre-listing home inspection, not necessarily a full-blown home inspection, but I have partnered with home inspectors who will actually meet with the homeowner in advance and do what's called a walk and talk. So the inspector will walk through the home with the homeowner and point out things that would be a red flag to a potential buyer. Because once a buyer submits an offer to purchase a home, and the seller accepts that offer, 9 times out of 10, the buyer will obtain a third-party home inspection of the property. And it's always best, I feel, for the homeowner to obtain that pre-listing home inspection, get that home inspection done before we even put it on the market, so that they're aware of any hidden items that require attention, either replacement or repair, so as not to be surprised when the buyer comes with their inspector and then uncover sometimes major issues with the property.
So let's talk about that, because clearly there's differences between structural issues and then cosmetic issues, right? When it comes to what people need to do with either repairing or improving on their homes. Can you talk about that a little bit on the the differences and how to determine what the difference is between what needs to be fixed versus what a home seller thinks they may need to do to get the best price and to sell quickly?
Yeah, sure. I mean, one of the most obvious structural issues would be a leaky roof. So we know that if a roof is leaking, that's a problem. If there's any type of water intrusion into the property, that's an issue. Oftentimes, there might be a foundation issue. There could be just a small crack in the foundation, which enables water to seep into the house. It's so funny. Last year, around this time last year, I was working with a buyer, and we were so excited. They had found the home that they absolutely loved, and we were under contract. The seller accepted their offer, and we went for the home inspection on a day that it was pouring. And honestly, when I'm working with buyers, I prefer home inspections during really, really heavy downpours of rain, because if there is a water issue, it'll more than likely surface during that time. So the buyers and I went to the home that they had fallen in love with for their home inspection, and we get to the basement, and water is literally pouring down the side of a wall in the basement. And, I don't know if the sellers were aware. I'm thinking the sellers had to have been aware of that if there had been any type of rain in the months preceding them listing the property. But like I said, any type of water intrusion is a major issue. And as far as the cosmetics, if I'm representing a buyer, I encourage them to overlook the cosmetics. Okay, the doorknob might be a little loose. There might be a missing outlet cover. Those are minor issues that don't, they're not a make it or break it in terms of the transaction going through. Those are just a couple of the major structural and minor cosmetic repairs that I've run across.
Well, let's talk about that trickiness of being in the position of being a home seller when, like you said, this is a seller's market. So you're in that kind of position of being a seller and controlling the transactions to a certain extent, to then jumping into a much different position of being a home buyer when all of a sudden, you have a lot of other things to contend with and timings and things like that. So let's talk about the trickiness of this. So when someone says, I need to sell my house. Let's say we have a, empty nester, maybe that, kids are gone, they're off to college or graduated on living their lives and ready to downsize. So should they sell that house first and then look for another house, or what's the timing of that process, especially in this market?
Yes, it's so crazy. My husband gets so agitated with me because I'm really big and passionate about people holding on to their homes, actually. So when I, have a listing appointment with a potential home seller, one of the first things I ask is do you really need to sell the home? Would you rather not, hold on to it as an investment property? And my husband's like, if they want to sell their home, let them sell their home. So, if they actually need to sell the home, for example, if they need the equity from the home to purchase their new home, it can be tricky, especially in the seller's market. And especially, it's a nationwide issue right now that home inventory is very, very low. There are not many homes on the market for sale. And that has made several homeowners a bit reluctant to sell their homes first out of fear that they may not be able to secure a new home. So I've actually partnered with a couple of lenders who will allow a homeowner to tap into their equity before selling their house. I mean, it's a process. It's not for everyone. The home needs to have quite a bit of equity in it, but it is possible to get a loan and to be able to purchase a new home without having to include a contingency in your offer that you must sell your current home first. Because quite frankly, sellers, they're not in a position where they're desperate for someone to purchase a home. So if you're a homeowner who needs to sell a home before, as a condition of buying the new one, you're more than likely not going to be able to secure that home that you actually want. So my suggestion would be to take advantage of, one of the programs that I'm familiar with that will allow you to tap into your equity before you even sell the home and to submit an offer on your home of choice without that home sale contingency attached to it.
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, I remember the days when that was just kind of a default standard, but now it's, good luck in having someone accept your offer without it. I guess.
It's just not going to happen. If you're fortunate enough, if you really, just really want to sell your home, maybe you can go and stay with a friend or a relative or an extended stay place, but a lot of times your friends and relatives don't really want extra tenants in the house. So yeah, but it's definitely tricky when you're in that position. And I actually, I have a couple that I'm working with now, as a matter of fact, and I introduced them to the program that enables them to tap into their equity prior to even selling their house. And that's the road that they're taking. And they're actually, doing a few updates on their current house right now. And they're going to take advantage of that program. It's an awesome program. And, I can speak on it if anyone wants to contact me later.
Yeah, because that's something that I had never heard of that, but I guess especially in this market, that is tremendous. You said something a moment ago that is really interesting when you talked about how your husband gets aggravated at you for trying to talk people into keeping their home if that's an option, especially when you're in the business of selling homes. That's that's
exactly.
You're talking people you're talking people out of giving you a paycheck at that point. But that's also why I really do consider you to be a true educator and an advocate for their success. So I'd like to have you kind of walk through the reasoning behind that. What is it that would drive you to have someone to consider doing that?
Yeah, I'm just really passionate about assisting others with, tapping into the generational wealth building potential that comes with owning real estate. I think, I moved into my first apartment in 1987, somewhere along that line. And I was renting and, I just had like a moment and I thought to myself, oh my, I'm putting all of this money out in rent. And at the end of the year, I don't have anything to show for it. I don't have a property that's appreciating in value. I don't have, any tax write-off. So I asked my parents if I could come and, stay with them for a while to purchase a home of my own. And, they welcomed me with open arms because I'm such an amazing daughter. And, I stayed with them. And after a couple of years, I purchased my first home. And a few years later, I got married and moved into a home that my husband was renting. And I didn't sell my home. I held on to it. I mean, I wasn't a realtor then, and I held on to my home, and I was able to rent it out for more than twice the amount of my mortgage payment. And that just blew my mind because I was able to, still pay my mortgage. And then I got tax benefits because once you have an investment property, then you can claim depreciation on that property, for tax purposes. And there are just so many benefits, tax benefits. And then, of course, you're able to bring in additional income that, you can save, or, I was able to help pay for my daughter's college tuition with the extra income that I, received from renting out that property. And then a few years ago, I bought another investment property in the Orlando area that I rent out on Airbnb. And it's just a no-brainer to me to own property that someone else pays for. So I'm just really, really, really passionate about that. So that's why I always ask, homeowners if they really need to sell, or, if they would, and explain to them the benefits of having investment properties. I think it's great. It gives you a legacy to leave to your children, to your grandchildren. And I'm just really passionate about it.
Well, it does require passion to talk someone out of having you sell their house, and to me that's just really amazing. So let's say someone listens to you and says, that sounds like a great idea. Is there something that they can do? Do you help them with that process, or help them understand how to transition the home they're living in into an investment property? So I guess is there a way for them to continue to work with you to help them through that journey of
Oh yeah, absolutely. Actually, I have a client now who is transitioning her permanent residence into a rental property. So, I've met with her a couple of times, told her where she needed to go to obtain her rental license. If the home is built before 1978, there's a requirement that it be tested for lead paint. So I provided her, the resources and contact information to have all of that done. I referred her to some contractors because she wanted to add a kitchen and a bathroom to one of the lower levels in the house. But yeah, I walk you through. I've done it, so I'm familiar with the processes. And in terms of if you're going to do short-term rentals, you would need to maybe have someone, a property manager, take care of the property, because my short-term rental is in a totally different state, so I can't be there. You have property managers, but yeah, I definitely provide, all of the resources necessary to get you up and running, from obtaining licenses and permits to, how to vet property managers so that you have someone there to take care of the property in your absence, so that, if the tenants need anything, they're not calling you at 1 a.m. They're reaching out to the property manager. But yeah, I provide guidance in all aspects, whether it's, a permanent home, a vacation home, or an investment property. I guide you step by step through the entire process.
Wow, that's something. And I guess that also kind of takes one of the elements out of the juggling act of selling and buying at the same time. I guess it gives you a little bit more breathing room when doing that. Well, that truly is amazing, and I would imagine there's a lot of people that haven't even considered that because they don't understand the benefits of that. And you're talking about generational wealth and building that. Can you go deeper into some of those other things that you talked about? That you talked about the tax savings and things like that, because I think that's something that a lot of people would be interested in understanding, because a lot of people just have a very shallow understanding of, well, I can sell the house take the money and do something else, buy another one, or if I keep it, I just get rent. But I guess there's things that you mentioned that go above and beyond those benefits, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And, not every property would be an ideal property to turn into an investment, because you want to ensure that you're able to not only meet your current expenses, but exceed them, like in case something were to go wrong. You don't want to earn just enough to cover expenses. Ideally, and that's my personal opinion, you definitely want to, have a cushion and have just that extra passive income. And then, every repair that you make to that investment property is a tax write-off. Every utility bill is a tax write-off. So the depreciation is the real key, which gives you the highest tax savings, is that the property is now depreciating. You have this asset that's being used and lived in by someone other than yourself. So, you have that depreciation. And I'm not an accountant. I don't play one on TV, so I can't go into every aspect of the savings and the tax benefits. But it's definitely worthwhile to talk to your tax accountant to determine whether or not it would be, feasible in your best interest to turn the property into an investment property, and how financially beneficial it would be for you.
Well, yeah, that is fantastic, and I'm sure, anyone that wants to find out more information about that should, because that's definitely a big option that a lot of people don't realize. So if we get back to talk about the buying and the selling process when you're doing that at the same time. What I think a good thing to talk about are some of the big myths and misconceptions and mistakes that you've seen people make when they're in this position. So, what do you see as some of those biggest misconceptions that people have when they are in that position of, wanting to sell their home and to purchase another one? Something that you can kind of help guide people and dispel some of those myths and help them avoid those mistakes.
The biggest myth would probably be that they're, unable to do it. As I mentioned, they're right when the pandemic hit, actually, there were so many homes that were listed for sale, and the homeowners took the house off the market, because we were dealing with, territory that we hadn't crossed before, so understandably so. But then, now we're beyond, the unknown. We're beyond the unknown, and the housing market is just completely on fire. And sellers are reluctant, as I mentioned before, to sell their home before they move into a new home out of fear that they may end up homeless, which is, like I said, where those programs that I mentioned come in, because it is possible to do both. And, some home buyers are reluctant to, go out and search for homes because they know that competition is fierce. There are plenty of home buyers out here because interest rates are still, really low, historically speaking, and inventory is really low. So some home buyers have the misconception that they need a 20% down payment, for example. And that's simply not the case. You can purchase a home for as little as 3% down sometimes, depending on, your credit and your debt to income ratio, et cetera. But it is possible. You do need to have some money saved for out of pocket costs like your home inspection and a home appraisal. But there are even, programs. I have buyers right now who are approved to purchase a home where most of their down payment is being taken care of by a home buyers program. So it's definitely opportunity to purchase and or sell.
Yeah, I can imagine. And I think one of the things that has probably changed dramatically in this market is, in the day, I remember when, you made an offer on a house, you can say, okay, I'll pay this, but I want the seller to pay these closing costs, or I want the seller to make these adjustments, or to, pay this for me. Is that still open, or is that something the seller's like, next?
It depends on the property. With your turnkey homes that everybody is just chomping at the bit for, no, the seller will more than likely not entertain an offer where the buyer is asking for money towards closing costs, because they simply don't have to, because they're oftentimes receiving multiple offers above the price that they're actually asking for the property. And some of those offers, some buyers are waiving certain contingencies. Some buyers are stating that if the house, for example, if the house appraises lower than the offer price, they'll bring the difference out of pocket. So, the days of the buyer getting assistance from the home seller are kind of a thing of the past. But again, it depends on the property. If it's a property that may have been on the market for a while, it needs some updating, it needs some TLC, you may be more likely to receive assistance from a seller in that case. But not so much so for the turnkey, really beautiful move-in ready homes. It's just not going to happen.
While we're talking about the things like contingencies and those kind of things that are in a contract, I'd like to bring up, I think, what's another, valuable part of working with you and your experience is that you were actually a business development professional at a top 10 DC law firm before you transitioned to real estate professional. Do you find that helps you in working through the contracts? Because, I see real estate contracts, I've seen lots of them in Texas, and it seems to be documents that people spend more time writing than reading, because there's so much, so much language in there. Is that something that you kind of go through line by line with your clients, or at least, go through on their behalf to make sure that everything looks right, nothing to sneak up on them during that process?
Yeah, absolutely. At an early age, I was just very taken in with the legal field. So I was also a court reporter at one point. And like you just mentioned, I, was a business development professional in a top DC law firm for a number of years. And just, the attention to detail that's required in the legal field, has really helped me in my real estate career, because I ensure that I am very, extremely familiar with the contract, extremely familiar with the addenda to the contract, as well as the, disclosures that sellers are required to make to buyers. And I just ensure that I'm on top of it. And I'm not a lawyer. I don't play one on television, but I take a lot of continuing education courses, and I make it a point to stay on top of changes in the contracts, changes in required documentation, so that my clients are never at a disadvantage because I failed to include anything in the offer or in the contract. And I typically, I'm not one to explain line by line, because like you said, a lot of people just don't read, and I always encourage my clients, I need you to read through this so that you know exactly what it said. And then after you read through it, then we will go through it together and I'll answer any questions that you have. Because, honestly, we realtors, we are, ethically required to only fill in spaces. We are, taught and instructed to not provide any legal advice, but at the same time, we need to know what the contract language is all about so that we're able to answer questions that come up. And I feel that, my legal background has really prepared me for that and puts me at, an advantage and, make me a benefit to my clients because I am familiar with the documentation and the required disclosures and addenda.
Well, yeah, that certainly is an advantage for your clients to have someone that, like I said, is a true advocate for their success. Valencia, you really do just a remarkable job, and just the education that you provided today is tremendous, and I'm sure eye-opening to a lot of folks, especially those that didn't even think about the option of holding on to their home as an investment. So I want to thank you so much for coming on and sharing this information and being so giving with your knowledge. It really does help a lot of folks. So thank you.
Thank you very much, and thanks again for having me. My pleasure.
Before I let you go, I would like to find out if someone out there that is perhaps in the Maryland, D.C., or Central Florida areas, or wants to learn more about Valencia Simmons and how to get involved. What's the best way for them to learn more?
Okay, the best way I would say is to visit my website, which is V Sells Homes. That's V like Victory, EESELLSHOMES.com. You're able to search for homes. I have other resources there to assist both home buyers and home sellers, including my Ultimate Home Sellers Checklist and my Show Me the Keys, a guide for home buyers. You're also able to schedule a Right Size My Home strategy session from a link in my website. And I'm on social media. I'm on Facebook, Instagram as V Sells Homes. And I'm also on LinkedIn and YouTube.
Oh, fantastic. We'll definitely have those links on the show post. Again, V, thanks for coming on today. It really has been a pleasure having you.
All right. Thank you so much.
All right, folks, there you have it. Definitely, especially if you're in that Maryland, D.C., Central Florida areas, and you are a homeowner and you're looking to sell and also to buy, or even now maybe considering keeping your home as an investment, definitely check out what Valencia Simmons has to say. Check out her checklist and guides. Again, that website is V Sells Homes, VEESELLSHOMES.com. And again, we'll have those links and the links to her social media on the show post. Until next time on Influencers Radio, remember, you are the only real game changer.
You've been listening to Influencers Radio. To get all past shows and updates on future shows, visit influencersradio.com today.